If you're listening to this episode around the time it comes out in June of 2017, it's officially summer. Let's get away from the deep subjects like we had last week with the story behind hypnotism and the story behind subliminal messages, and do a lighter topic. Maybe something you can listen to while laying in the sand on the beach somewhere, soaking up the summer sun. Or if you've just found the story behind and are listening to past episodes in the cold winter months, transport yourself mentally to the beach as you listen. Even if you're not one of the 23 million people worldwide who participate in the pastime I'm focusing on, you can feel like you're riding the waves with 2 episodes this week about the sport and some of the language surrounding it. I'm your host, Emily Prokop, and this is the story behind surfing. But first, a quick message. Every episode, I talk to you, and it's a very one-sided conversation. Did you ever want to have a way to talk back? Maybe you know a bit of trivia about a past episode subject I didn't mention, or maybe you want to share a random piece of trivia you picked up during the day. Join the Story Behind Facebook group by clicking the link in the show notes, or by going to bit.ly/TSB Facebook. See you trivia buffs there! Even though they're homonyms, the word surf, meaning a feudal slave, has nothing to do with surfing that we're talking about in this episode. The surf we're talking about is believed to have come from the now obsolete 17th century word suff, which meant the shoreward surge of the sea. Combining suff and surge, like the rise and fall of the waves, produced the word surf, which as a noun refers to the shore, and then became used as a verb when the pastime became popular. Unsurprisingly, surfing began in the ancient Polynesian islands more than 3,000 years ago, with fishermen finding out riding the waves was an effective way to get their catch to shore. In addition to being a useful method to transport the day's work, it also became a recreational activity. Captain James Cook remarked in the 1700s about a Tahitian who let the waves carry him and his canoe of fish to shore, then went back out to find another wave to ride for fun. The process of building a surfboard even had spiritual traditions associated with it, including burying a fish at the base of the tree cut down to make the board as an offering. Like the episodes from a few weeks ago, the story behind piercing and the story behind tattoos, the arrival of missionaries to Polynesian islands ushered a temporary decline of the sport until Hawaiians and settlers from Europe and America took up surfing again in the 20th century. From there, it began to spread to the mainland via California. Duke Kahanamoku is considered the father of surfing. The Olympic swimmer was introduced to surf riding in the early 20th century. While surf culture in California became associated with muscle beach surfers staking claims on wave territory, Kahanamoku is known for spreading Hawaii's aloha spirit, including sharing the waves and general surfing camaraderie.
You know, there's so many waves come in all the time. You don't have to worry about that. Take your time. Wave come. Let the other guys catch another one.
When 15-year-old Kathy Kohner took up surfing in the 50s, she would make peanut butter sandwiches to take to the beach to trade for a chance to ride the waves on other surfboards. When she came home at night and told her father, Frederick Kohner, the surfing stories from her day, he got the idea to write a book based on them, starring a character who had the nickname Gidget, a portmanteau of the words girl and midget. Most consider the 1950s to be the first big surge of surfing's popularity in the United States, especially following the release of the book, Gidget, the Little Girl with Big Ideas, which was turned into a movie starring Sandra Dee, and a television show starring a very young Hollywood newbie, Sally Field. The movie is considered the first Hollywood surf movie. There were previous surf movies, but Gidget was the first with a major budget, a plot, and was shown in major theaters. Music acts Dick Dale and the Beach Boys brought what's known as the California sound inland and popularized beach music nationwide. The music genre is defined by tightly sung harmonies, imagery of girls or driving fast cars along the California coast, and of course surfing, and peppy-sounding chord progressions with reverb and whammy bar usage added in. This was during a time Americans from the so-called silent generation was a subsect of young adults post-war and during the McCarthy era, which we talked about in the We Didn't Start the Fire series. This generation stayed in the background, focusing on their careers as opposed to engaging in activism. This non-threatening, happy, peppy music was an escape for many to a mythical part of the country where life was carefree and your biggest worry was a wipeout. And with the Cold War right around the corner, that was just what the decade needed. The 80s and 90s saw another surge for surfing and surf culture, with television shows like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and California Dreams, and movies like Fast Times at Ridgemont High featuring Spicoli, the quotable surfer dude stereotype portrayed by Sean Penn in 1982.
Well, Sue, I'll tell you, surfing's not a sport. It's a way of life, no hobby. It's a way of looking at that wave and saying, hey, bud, let's party.
This became another topic that was too big to fit into just one episode. And in the next show, which comes out Thursday, we'll be talking about some of the aspects of surf culture, like surf slang. So it would be really gnarly if you would subscribe to The Story Behind on your favorite podcast app so you won't miss it. The role of Duke Kahanamoku was played by Dan Brennick from the Netflix and Swill podcast. The music provided during the episode was performed by the band And Robots. Find more of their music at and-robots.com. Information for this episode was sourced from the book Legends of Surfing, The Greatest Surf Riders from Duke Kahanamoku to Kelly Slater by Duke Boyd, the AV Club, surfer.com, and more links which can be found in the show notes at thestorybehindpodcast.com. Want to talk more about this episode or past episodes of The Story Behind? Join the Facebook group by clicking on the link in the show notes, or by going to bit.ly/TSB Facebook. Thanks for listening.